Hello and welcome to this session. It's session number 1, and we're going to look at month 1 just to give you an overview again of the course, just to give you a little reminder about how it all works, show you around the screen again just to familiarise yourself, and then we'll just go straight in to make sure that you're achieving your milestones each month. So let's just have a look. We'll share my screen now. So bear with me. Okay, so we'll go to student view. There we are. So last week you went through the welcome. We had a look at this. We did your induction. We talked about how it all works, how it all comes together. We looked at the standards. We did a brief overview. And this is where you're going to find the recordings under recorded sessions. We're then going to look at PowerPoints for sessions. So when we deliver the duties, there'll be 10 lots of PowerPoints there, so one for each duty. So you can go back and review those if you like. There's also going to be your library. So these are the reading books, so you can download those just to refresh yourself, to keep yourself up to date. And then, as I said last week, you've got your month 1 here. So this is what we're working on this month. You've got your functional skills requirements. Now, if you've not done functional skills before, you need to log into here and you need to start your functional skills. So if you haven't done so already and you need them, and you haven't got functional skills in your dashboard, please do reach out to us. Again, functional skills is run exactly the same way. You've got your online material, there's recordings, and there's activities for you to do. Good. We then look at some study skills. So we'll just have a look at these. Okay, so study skills really are preparing you for becoming an apprentice or undertaking some learning. And this is great because as a mentor, you can use the same information for your people that you're mentoring or supporting or teaching, because if they're at work and they've got a home life, we have to kind of be considerate of this, and we understand that people are under a lot of pressure. So therefore, just sitting down with somebody, it's called information, advice and guidance, just giving them some information, advice and guidance about what study skills are is really helpful. There's loads of stuff online that you can download. There's loads of free courses that you can do via Open University and all of the other ones, or Open Learn, I think, where it's all free. But look, this is the main point. And I've been studying since I've left school because I didn't do very well at school, but I love vocational learning. So here's my top tips. Number 1, time management. Now, ultimately, what people say to me is this: I haven't got enough time, Steve. And I say, you have the same amount of time as everybody else. It's just not a priority on your list. Let's be honest with this. You know, you've got your family, your work, and all of the other stuff. What you're saying to me is this isn't a priority. And the problem with that is it means you're never going to find time. It's never going to bring you priority. So make sure that you discipline yourself, and just even if it's half an hour a day, you know, and I know lunch breaks are for your lunch. However, I found lunch breaks a really useful time for me because it was a nice distraction. I could just switch off from what I was doing, go to some learning material, feel like I've achieved something, have a sandwich. And I'm one of those people. I always work better with a cup of coffee in one hand, a biscuit or a packet of crisps in another, and I can just take in the learning. You know, basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is the only kind of class where you can sit there, eat, munch, and learn at the same time. So fit it in. When you think about it, we have a lot of dead time in our days. And when I talk about dead time, I'm talking about when we sit on the toilet, fine, 5-10 minutes, depending on how long you like to go into the toilet for. If you're having a bath, you know, you're just laying there, just bang on one of these videos, watch it, take it in, help yourself move forward. Because ultimately, what I tend to find is when people really try to sit down and put their computer up and actually designate time, it just never happens. Or if you get into the habit where you think, okay, I'm on a bus, I can play that video, I'm doing this, I can do that. If you fill up your times when you could be, you know, technically multitasking, there's some of the stuff that you can help. There's some great AI tools out there now that will read articles and journals to you. There's great AI tools out there that will read books to you. So just any way that you can get that in, just get it in. Obviously it is about good time management. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Reading, nobody likes reading. Well, some people like reading, that's a lie. I'm not a particularly good reader. It's not something I enjoy, but I try to make time, and even if it's half an hour before going to bed, or I'm just laying in bed, I'll try and read something. And again, I am definitely a little and often person with reading. I'm one of those how to eat an elephant in bite-sized chunks people when it comes to reading. But again, loads of great tools out there now. There's even this new reading pen where you can just highlight it, it reads it to you. On your phone, there's reading apps where it will read it to you. Again, there's plugins that you can have where you just highlight this text and it reads it to you. So if you're not a great reader and you find reading difficult, maybe because you're dyslexic, or maybe there's a neurodivergence sitting there, find the technology to help you, because technology is brilliant. And equally, as a learning and skills mentor, your digital skills should be brilliant. Your digital skills should be there so you're able to support others. And if your digital skills aren't great, and when I mean digital skills, I'm not talking about using Word and typing in Excel. I'm talking about your understanding of advancing in technology, because ultimately it's all of this technology that's going to come together to make life a lot easier for yourself and for your learners. Because we want to take away objection, we want to take away the reasons why people can't learn, and reading is definitely one of them. So my digital series that I'm doing at the moment, and you'll find it in the YouTube channel as well, I've started to do ways where digital technology can help improve learning. Equally with note-taking, don't know what's going on there. Equally with note-taking, I'm a kind of bit in between the two here. So my note-takings, if I've got something paper, I am definitely a scribbler. I definitely highlight and scribble and sticky notes and do stuff. And then I kind of sit back as a strategy and go, is that a great strategy? Am I saving time? Is it going in? I don't know. I am now starting to use Post-it notes online a lot more. So if you use your Post-it notes online, it's great. In your phone, we've got Post-it notes. In Google, you've got to-do lists and Post-it notes there. So there's lots of ways of organising your note-taking. And equally, if you find studying difficult and complex, especially with essay writing, there are free essay writing tools out there where you can just mind dump stuff and it'll create it. So just think about that. Critical thinking involves analysing. Level 4 and above, it's all about the analysis. It's all about, option A and option B, and what does option A and option B mean and say, and what have you drawn from that conclusion? So think about critical thinking skills. There are lots of critical thinking tools out there to help you through critical thinking. So again, if you just Google critical thinking tools, you'll see them. And they're great if you've never done critical thinking before. And critical thinking is definitely about not being biased, being open to suggestion, trying to see things from different points of view, looking at sources of evidence. It's kind of that kind of thing. So just be mindful of that. Problem solving, again, is another skill. There are lots of tools out there for problem solving. And as a mentor, as someone that's doing the learning skills mentorship, I highly recommend you look at them, because these tools that you find will be very helpful for other people as well. And then finally there, exam preparation. So of course, exam preparation is key to success. So just those mock practices, preparing, and just finding yourself some time there. Good. So creating a study planner is a really useful tool. Like I said, OpenLearn, so from the Open University, they've got some great study planners. You can download these online now. It's not difficult to find a study planner. There's study planning software, there's study planning apps. it can feel a bit overwhelming, but again, find your lane, find something that you quite like. So if you are a pen and paper person, just get a diary, plan it in there. If you are an appy person, have it on your phone. If you're a computer person, look at some of the tools that's online or web-based stuff. I think it's, it's definitely worthwhile, especially when deadlines are due and essays are due and presentations are due. It can feel slightly overwhelming, but ultimately, one of the whole points of pressure and learning is to demonstrate resilience. It demonstrates those personal learning thinking skills. It demonstrates your leadership skills. So all of this stuff demonstrates much more than just the title of the qualification. So be mindful of that. But equally, just set yourself realistic goals, break things down, have a weekly and a monthly schedule, prioritize things. If you've got more than one task going on, look at what's coming up first. Don't procrastinate. There's a great video on how to ADHD. I'm not saying you all have ADHD, but on how to ADHD, there is a video called How to Stop Procrastination, and it is a fantastic video. There's equally another technique called the Pomorandum effect. And the Pomorandum effect is about rewarding yourself after a certain amount of study time. And again, the Pomorandum, I think I'm saying that right, it's like a tomato, but Italian version, or not Italian, that's Tomato or something. But the Pomorandum effect is, it's a great studying tool because sometimes we lack focus and sometimes we over focus. So just be mindful about creating yourself a study planner, which is you're not setting yourself up to fail. That active reading. So active reading is about participating in the reading materials. So when you're reading it, go through it, check it, look for those subheadings, make sure that you've understood what it is you're reading. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've read a book or an article and I've got to the bottom of it and gone, nah, not a clue. And I've had to reread it all over again. I'm sure you've all been there as well. But active reading is really important because only when both sides of your brain are fired up and you're actually in the zone is it going to go in. So it is about staying focused while you read, try to reduce those distractions. It's quality over quantity with active reading. And again, like I said to you, I'm a highlighter person. So in all my books, you will see notes and lines and stuff. In the ebooks now, you can use your highlighter pens and lines. So there are absolute ways of doing it. Taking notes, when I take notes, I generally am making notes for things that I've read that I haven't really understood. So what I tend to do is, if I've not been able to read a word or something, I'll write it down, and then I can go away and research. The problem that I've got is I am like a rabbit going down a rabbit hole. So if there's something that I haven't quite understood, I'll then research it. And then what I'm ended up doing 2 hours later, I've researched something completely off topic because I just needed to know what that meant. And actually what I've done is I've hyperfixated on something that I didn't need to really know. So be mindful of those rabbit holes. There's a great technique, which is, again, go back to that Pomorandum effect, which is if something pops in your brain, if something's distracting you, if you need to know something, just write it down and say to yourself, I'll research that later, but just keep going. Summarize what you've read, in your own words. That's great. I tend to write things out just to try and help it stick. And obviously just do it all the time, practice reading. I skim and scan. I am definitely a skim reader. I'm much more of a big picture person. And there is some really great technology out there now for people who are neurodivergent. So if you have ADHD or dyslexia, there's an AI technology out there which highlights the first 2 or 3 letters and the last couple letters of a word. And what it does is it means you can read faster. So even if you haven't got ADHD, you can read faster. And I've done it. It works so well. It's really freaky. But equally, I've done those things where you can have a word completely spelled wrong, but as long as the first letter and the last letter are the right letters, your brain will just read it as it is. But anyway, try active reading. Note-taking skills, obviously, making notes is really important. Just be prepared, listen, organise your notes, use your visual aid cards, whatever it is that you're doing. I'm a bit of a doodler, I have to be honest with you, when I'm at uni or lecturers. Revise what you've read, and try and keep your notes in some kind of order. I wasn't very good at that. I'm still not very good at that, I'll be honest with you. If you go over my university books, I've got many notebooks on the same subject. Could have all gone into one, could have all been in chronological order. But that just gives you an idea of kind of where my mind's at. So it's important to just do that. And again, I've got stuff all on my phone as well where I've taken notes. So taking notes is a skill. And again, if you find note-taking difficult, take a dictaphone, just record it. Look at me being old. Use your phone and record it. As we said, critical thinking skills are vitally important. The whole point of level 4 and above is that you are able to be an independent thinker. You're not somebody that's just going to do it because you were told to do it, but you actually understand why. And this is so much more important when you are supervising, teaching, or developing others, because it goes back to the fishing rod analogy, you know, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, give him a rod, feed him for life. Critical thinking is a life skill. And it needs to become habit. We need to start questioning everything. And it's not the case of us disbelieving, but we need to know the evidence behind what we're being told. It's not us making a mountain out of a molehill. We just need to understand it, because if we're going to be professional, if we're going to take responsibility, if we're going to make decisions based upon stuff, we want those decisions to be based upon the best source of evidence that we can have. And equally, reflective practice is really important in critical thinking skills. And finally, there, problem-solving skills. Again, we already spoke about this just a second ago, but define the problem, gather the information, analyze it, generate different solutions, evaluate each of those solutions, and then pick the best one. Implement the solution. I can't remember what it was. I think it was investors in people. Could be investors in people. Their cycle is plan, do, review. So again, plan it, do it, review it. And then practice. So problem solving is a skill. Level 4 and above, I should never be in a position when I am teaching people at this level and above. I shouldn't be in a position where you don't know it's coming, or if there's a problem, you haven't been able to resolve it. Because ultimately, if you come to me and say, look, Steve, I didn't meet the deadline. Look, Steve, I haven't done this. Then that's a problem. And you haven't been able to solve that problem. What I would expect is you to say, can I have an extension because I need it for this day? You need to be accountable for everything that you do. So for me, there is no excuse. I'm a no excuse person, because ultimately, if I allow those excuses, I almost indulge in it. You know, I'm late. It's a problem, right? Why are you late? Missed the bus. Why did you miss the bus? You know, I'm assuming it arrives at the same time every day, give or take. Why did you miss the bus? Oh, because. Right, okay, so what have we learned from this? That you need to be leaving 15 minutes earlier, that you need to be getting up a bit later or a bit earlier, you know, or maybe you're not organised enough or whatever it is. But actually, there are no excuses. We need to get to a point in professional practice where if we say we're going to do it, we do it, because that's what reliability is. If we've got a deadline, we can meet it. And that's what it's about. So part of our responsibility in teaching and learning and upskilling others is about, you know, if there's a problem, teaching a member of staff how to manage that. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've had a learner in front of me going, oh, I'm not really sure what to do, before they've even thought it. Their first line of defense is, I don't know what to do. And you're like, okay, well, let's break that down. Why don't you know what to do? Oh, I don't really know. But why don't you know? Oh, I've never really read the books. I've not had induction. Great. So you've come up with one of the problems here. So your problem is you haven't been inducted properly, or you've not read your policies and procedures, or you've not understood due process. So it's not the fact that it is the fact that you don't know what to do, but the reason you don't know why you don't know what to do is because you've not done what you should have done. Because again, in all of this teaching and learning material, we tell you what to do. We give you the advice and guidance. We give you the essay support. And then what happens is people go straight to the assignment. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what to do. Go back to the start and watch everything properly, because if you skip parts, you're not going to understand it. So the problem here is you're not following due process. And if you don't follow due process and you're just jumping parts, then that's a risk. You're putting a risk to yourself and you put a risk to others. So part of the learning skills mentor role is definitely critical thinking and problem solving, not for yourself, but to embed that into every single person that you work with. Because I definitely am worried, dare I say, I definitely am worried about the level of problem solving skills that I've seen in workplaces. It's a very worrying thing. And when I talk to all the managers, every manager seems to say the same thing. And again, fine, exam preparation, obviously plan it, be organised, review stuff, read it all, seek help if you don't understand stuff. The exam, especially for your EPA, is all going to be in your skills, knowledge and behaviours, nothing extra. So don't start picking up books that aren't relevant to that topic. Stress, keep yourself healthy. Some people quite work well under stress, some don't. Stay focused, get your sleep. Time management. I think number 10 is really important, believe in yourself. If you go into an exam saying, I can't do this, then you've given up. What you need to be saying in an exam is positive self-talk. So flip your negative cognition to a positive cognition. Because so many times I hear people say, oh, I can't do it, I'm going to fail. Well, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it, at that point? And it's almost like you're saying it, so if you do, you can say, told you I was right. Where actually, if we turn that around, we start to have positive cognitions, you know, a bit of self-care, a bit of self-love, a bit of positive thinking, PMA, positive mental attitude. We're halfway there. And I've surprised myself in exams in the past where I thought, I can do this. I don't know if I've got it, but I can do this, and I've passed. And it's just that self-belief. You know, I think a lot of us suffer with imposter syndrome, meaning we don't believe we should be there or we have the right to be there. But we do. You're here, your learners are going to be there. So recognize what they're doing in you, kind of thing. Recognize what you do in them, sorry. So just think about how you act and how you cope and pass some of that on. Because again, one of the study skills that should definitely be here is resilience. And we're not always going to pass everything we do the first time. So just be resilient, be thinking about that. Good. So now let's move on to Learn and Aim for Duty 1. Here we're going to help mentees understand legal and ethical frameworks applied to their organisation. We're going to develop the knowledge and skills related to confidentiality and safeguarding. We'll look at some ethical principles in the profession. We'll look at potential ethical conflicts and dilemmas. We'll look at some workplace professionalisms, conduct professionalisms. So all of the stuff we've just been talking about really as well. Maintaining confidentiality, sharing goals and objectives, ongoing learning and reflection, and ways of promoting trust and respect. So let's start. Now, thinking about being a learning and skills mentor, I'm going to assume, and I know we shouldn't assume anything, it makes an arse out of you and me and all of those wonderful analogies, but I'm going to assume that you are on this program because you have relevant industry background knowledge, you have already got some kind of qualification or at least 5 or 6 years experience within the sector, and that you are passionate about supporting people to achieve their goals, kind of. And part of that is your ability to understand how other people may feel, so that empathy and sympathy skill set. However, here's some really helpful things for you to think about. Number one is about boundaries. Ultimately, you are in a position of trust and authority as a learning skills mentor. You are there to promote learning. You are there to keep people safe, because obviously part of people's jobs will be to practice whatever it is. And you're there to maintain those high levels of professionalism. You are the role model and the gatekeeper of standards. So it's really important that you act in a professional and ethical manner. But equally, you set those boundaries at the very beginning of your engagement with people. So, for example, I don't mind people eating and drinking in my class. My boundary is no noisy foods. Don't mind anything else. I don't mind you using your phone in my class, as long as you're using it to promote your learning and you are using it to find an answer. I don't mind that. But I have expectations of a learner. So I struggle when mutual respect isn't both ways. So I struggle with people turning up late. If I've managed to get somewhere on time, I expect my students to be there on time, because ultimately it's a boundary. I expect a deadline to be met. I expect you to listen to people in the room, and I expect you to be kind and courteous. I expect us to follow basic principles of active listening and being respectful towards each other. Now, people have over the years have called them ground rules, working agreements. I tend to just say to people, look, this is adult learning. I shouldn't need to tell you, don't play with your phone under the table because I can see you. I shouldn't need to tell you, if you're more than 15, 20 minutes late, don't come in because it's distracting to other people. So I struggle when I see learners with little or when I see learners that don't project the right behaviours towards others. I was in a Zoom class not that long ago, and I had people sitting in their pajamas at home, and I was like, what's going on? You wouldn't go to a classroom and sit in your pajamas. So just because learning is remote doesn't mean that we haven't got the same set of standards or moral decency. So sometimes we need to call it out. Sometimes we just need to call it out, and explain where boundaries are. Now, that could be, you might have a training agreement, you might call it a working agreement, you might have a learner's contract, whatever it is. Come up with something to help people understand what what you want as good conduct, but also explain the consequences for that. And it's not because we want to be an authoritarian position. We want people to act in a certain manner that doesn't disrupt other people's learning, because it's disruptive to us as educators and teachers, but it's disruptive to others. And equally, what happens is the moment you allow one person to get away with it, the whole group's seen it, and then it's a behavioural problem. So I've also been in situations over the years when I've had somebody who's known more than me. I've had somebody in the room that blatantly doesn't want to be there. I've had somebody in the room that didn't want to listen to a white man. I've had somebody in the room who actually walked out because of my sexuality, because they weren't going to be taught by somebody like me. I've had somebody in the room blatantly argue with me, and it can be really challenging. And therefore, my comeback for all of these now are, now's not the right time to have this discussion. I don't need to engage in debate. I don't need to debate in an argument. I don't need to address this. If you're unhappy about a certain situation, we can do it in the break, or we can do it at lunchtime, but now is not the right time. And people tend not to like that. Or I say to a lot of people a lot of the time, I'm not forcing you to be here. If you disagree or dislike anything that I have said or done, you are absolutely free to leave the room. And that's happened to me once, probably in, I don't know, very, very many years. So just think about it. What I would say is there's some great techniques out there. There's training for managing challenging and hazardous behaviour. And that training definitely teaches you to maintain your adrenaline, because the moment people see you on the rise, you've kind of had it. And you can be assertive. There's nothing wrong with being assertive. You can still be fun. You can still be a bit bonkers, but you can still have standards. And when we think about legal frameworks to this, we need to think about your policies and procedures, so around discrimination and all of that stuff. So just make sure whatever you come up with as your strategies, just run it past your line managers to make sure that they're happy with that. Create a mentoring plan. So a mentoring plan isn't, again, a new thing. It's something we've done in education for a long time. We call them learning plans or information advice and guidance or whatever you want, but just a journey plan so people can understand what it is they're going to do and the milestones that they need to achieve. For this program, you will have seen, let me just bring this in. I'm going to open this up so you can see what I'm talking about. Bear with me, so I'm going to just switch screens for a second, because I think this is a good time to show this. Screen 2. And then hopefully now we're on screen 2. Hopefully here you can see we've got a delivery plan here. This runs through everything. It runs through the timetable, what you can expect, the outlines, the resits, retakes, all of that stuff. So a little bit of blurb. Then you've got your plan, explain what everything is, what we're covering. So this is where we are now. We're just going through this. We're just going to cover that. Again, when things are up, enrollment stuff. So all of this, your webinar stuff. So I think I've got some rules and stuff in there as well. Student engagement, there you go. So we've just talked about that. So this works really well because it's that information, advice, and guidance. It sets the pace and tone. People have an idea about what they're going to expect from you or expect from your training. And again, here for the assessments, we've explained what each one is and what you're going to do. So however you create your mentor plan, it's entirely up to you. But mentor plans are a great tool to give somebody just to keep them on track. And then they can't turn around and say, I didn't know. In the world of NVQs, we used to call them assessment plans. In the world of teaching and learning, we call them individual learning plans, and mentoring, you can call them delivery guides or mentorship plans. It's entirely up to you. Let's not get hooked up on language. Conduct a mentoring session. So the bulk of your mentoring activities involves in regular monitoring with your mentee, your mentoree. The session should be scheduled in advance, ample time to discuss things. So again, when you have your mentors or your mentorees, it's kind of just an agreement. It's like, look, let's look at what we're going to do. So again, you can call it an assessment plan if you like. This is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. This is what we're going to hope to, and this is how we're going to do it. So it's up to you in your organization to create some kind of document that shows that you're meeting up. So what did we do? When did we do it? Why did we do it? Kind of thing. Absolutely, you can Google those. You'll download draft ones and you can adapt it to your service. What I would say is if you are in a position within your organization to shape things, keep it nice and simple. Don't go for complicated session plans because they become paper chasing exercises and they lose their purpose because they become so admin heavy that it just becomes your whole job is just filling in paper. You don't want that. Confidentiality. So again, in your mentor plan, you could have a confidentiality statement, I think would be a really useful thing to have in there. And that confidentiality statement needs to be, look, as your supervisor, as your mentor, everything you say to me is going to be confidential. However, under safeguarding principles or keeping people safe, if you tell me something and I believe there to be a problem, I've got a duty of care. Again, that then follows safeguarding principles, right? So part of what we do is, again, looking at welfare. When you have your mentoree session, some of the things that we do in the world of education is let's talk about health and safety, let's talk about safeguarding, let's talk about equality and diversity, let's talk about British values, let's talk about prevent. I mean, we've got a whole script, right? Just have some questions in there that you can ask them, you know, just basic stuff like, how are you at the moment? How's your mental? How do you feel? Do you feel overwhelmed? You just want some things where you're showing that you're taking into account their safety and well-being, and that your training, your delivery, your assessments isn't pushing somebody over the edge. Because the last thing you want to do is make somebody feel like they're drowning. And we've all been there. It's part of resilience, believe it or not. We need to feel pressure because we don't do it otherwise. But actually, it's important that we offer that support. And then again, record and monitor activities. So whatever you're doing, just record it so it's there. So how to plan for a learning skills session. It's entirely up to you how you create this. So, for example, look, how to plan for a learning skills session. Identify your objectives, choose your material, choose the teaching methods, show the structure, prepare, consider the environment, and evaluate the session. Now, let's just say we're going to take this, okay, and I'm going to go to our wonderful AI. So, use a bit of digital skills here. Who doesn't love chat GPT now? So please make a mentor session plan using this information template. There we go. You don't actually need to correct that in here. It will just do it. There we go. There's your template. Done. Let's not, let's keep it nice and simple. Does this work? Let's have a look. Date, great, time, good. Where it is, even better. What do we hope to achieve? What's the goals of this? So it's something that's measurable and accountable. And those goals might be something that you've set. They may be something that they've set, or it may be something that the manager's set. And look, we've got a lovely bit of timekeeping here. So introductions, current progress. So where are we at? Discuss the progress since the last one. Look at any roadblocks. So love that. Topics for discussion, so just list them there. Action planning, so 20 minutes, look at specific things. Few Q&As, bit of feedback and reflection, lovely. Bit of homework, good. Wrap up for next session. Love a summary at the end. Follow up and any additional notes. I mean, that's a great plan, right? That is a great plan. I may even put that in here. Done, innit? You've got your tool. How to plan. Just create your tool. Job done. Good. What is the difference between a session plan and an assessment plan? Well, that's a very good question. I can answer this one quite happily. So a session plan is a document that outlines the structure of a session, something that's being taught. An assessment plan is an assessment method. So it's session plans is me teaching something, and assessment plan is me assessing something. So again, if we go to ChatGPT, so make a session plan. So you're going to have in here date, time, objectives, content, groups, breaks, Q&As, workshops, wrapping up, feedback, closing remarks, follow-ups. Typical session plan. Nothing too terrible there. And then if we go to an assessment plan, you're going to see the difference. So the assessment plan will have things like activity assessments, and assessment plan. So if we look at this, there we go. So looking at then what's being assessed, the purpose of why you're assessing it, what you're hoping to achieve, who's going to be in the assessment team, how long is it going to take, what methods are you going to collect? So normally observation, professional discussion, reflective account, what criteria is being assessed, where it's coming from, how far or who's collecting it, it being reviewed, any presentations or reporting, any action plans, who's going to be involved, other resources that you need, any ethical considerations, you need consent from others, etc. How's it going to be quality assured? How is it going to take? How to review? And then again, that. So you could use that, or alternatively, you could just have a square bit of paper where you've got on the left-hand side, tasks to be assessed, method, date, time, place. Easy. And again, if you review them, you'll see the difference. So session plan being taught, assessment plan being assessed. How do you fill in both? Well, it's going to be down to your quality assurance and what's going on within your organisation, and depending on the forms. However, my number one top tip is, if it has a box, fill it in. And if you don't know what the box is for, go to your line manager or your quality assurer and ask. But the easiest thing is, if you're developing your own, then you understand it. So, but 9 out of 10 times, if you have it, fill it in. Oh, look, I did do examples there. Knew it was coming, right? So example of the session plan and assessment plan. So there's your session plans, just looking at those. And there's your assessment plan there. So again, type of assessment criteria, where it's done, time and location, and instructions for the learner. Gives you an idea of both. Dead easy, dead easy. And again, the simpler they are, the easier they are to fill in. So conduct and record a mentor activity. So here, throughout your standards, you're going to be doing this a couple of times. When you get to your EPA, you're going to have to plan a session. You're going to have to conduct a mentoring session. You're probably going to have to deliver a bit of teaching and learning. So nothing too terrible. But here, when you conduct and record it, establish the agreement, conduct regular monitoring sessions. And look, if you want to establish a mentoring agreement, there you go. Mentoring agreement. It's not difficult anymore. It's not difficult anymore, is it? It's there. Great. So, conduct your session, communicate well, provide guidance and feedback. So again, feedback, you're going to want a feedback report. Feedback. So once you've done your session, you're going to want a feedback report template. Oh, look, my computer's. I think it's gone. We'll give that a second to play catch up. It's thinking about it. There you go. Don't know why that's going so slow. But a feedback, in essence, you're looking at strengths, you're looking at areas of opportunities, or things to improve, and then try and end up on a positive note. But I tend to say to people with feedback, how do you want it? Do you want me to be honest? Do you want me to sugarcoat it? Do you want me to write it? Do you want it verbalized? Do you want it more face-to-face? How do you want your feedback? Because I think feedback is a very personal thing. But anyway, we'll let that carry on because it's sort of going slow. And we'll go back to that and have a look at that. Record the activity. So again, just whatever paperwork you're creating, just record it, because the rule of paperwork is if you don't record it, it didn't happen. But you've probably had that loads of time in your role. Identify the strengths. We've just talked about that. Set achievable goals. So again, you can do a SWOT analysis. You can do whatever you want there. Celebrate achievements. So really highlight those. I think milestones work well. So if you go back to that delivery plan, looking at milestones is a great way of just getting through that. And then adhering to legal and ethical framework. So legal is going to be things like your GDPR, making sure you don't leave things lying around. Look about that. We've killed chat GPT. It's going really slow for some reason. Don't know why. And then your ethical frameworks. There's loads of different ethical frameworks out there. The one that I would recommend comes from the Society of Education and Training. So if let's have a look. So if we do set code of practice. Lots of different ones there. Okay, but it's the Society of Education and Training looks at integrity, respect, equality, diversity, professionalism, confidentiality, competence, duty of care, policies, law, avoiding conflicts of interest, professional development. So if you go to any of those frameworks, I don't know where the sort of education framework is, but if you go to them, you'll see them. It's useful to have a set of frameworks for you to work towards. Example of record and learning skills session. So, we've just done that. So I'm not going to worry about that. And again, once you're prepared and everything's done, you've got your assessment and teaching cycles. So your assessment and teaching cycle is then, let's say I'm going to deliver or present something. And then once I've taught you, I'm going to assess you. Okay, so this is basically a whole teaching degree in 2 paragraphs. So once you've got this, easy teaching. So the first one is your teaching cycle. So actually I need to change the heading because it's the wrong way around. The text is right, but the title's not. So here, the teaching cycle looks at planning. We've just seen that, the session plan. Delivery, so they're different strategies of delivery, and we're going to do delivery later on, but that's going to be making sure that we've got that blended learning approach in there. So we've got some visual stuff, some activities, some theory, and we're trying to make it interactive. Once we've taught, how are we going to assess? We're going to do formative and summative. So that formative piece is just ongoing assessing, and that summative is at the end, because there's no point me moving on to the next block of learning if you haven't understood the first block of learning. So I tend to then do lots of questions, be happy that they've got it to move on. And then finally, evaluation. What went well, what didn't go well, what service I'm going to use. And people, please, if you are going to do surveys, get them all online. Don't be giving out paper anymore. We're not on the Stone Age. Couple of reasons why we shouldn't be using paper. 1, we're on an environmental impact strategy. We're all trying to reduce waste. 2, it costs a lot of money to be printing that. 3, it costs even more money to sit down and analyse it all. And 4, if you put it all through some SurveyMonkey or Jot forms, it collates it all, it tallies it up, and it gives you lovely charts and graphs. Save yourself some time. Save yourself time. We're going to talk about it as we go through anyway. But planning, dead simple now. You can just use ChatGPT and then create your plan around that. Delivery, that is going to be you. There's no AI for that just yet. So that is you. You're going to deliver, you're going to be brilliant, you're going to present your information, you're going to get it across, you do that formative and summative piece. The assessment, how are you going to assess them against their outcomes? Are you going to do, if it's knowledge, you're going to test knowledge through short written answers, multiple choice, oral questioning, professional discussion, or if it's performance, are you going to do observation and a skills test? And an evaluation, get your SurveyMonkeys out. So that's your teaching and learning. Now, the concept of teaching and learning, or the learning cycle, has been around for a very long time. Started through the educational psychologist David Caleb, and you have got Caleb's learning cycle. So it's worthwhile just thinking about Caleb's teaching cycle there, again, around the planning, analysing feedback, etc. And then you have the assessment cycle. So the assessment cycle has been around for a long time. On here, you can see we're talking about Bloom. Bloom's been around, obviously, for a very long time. The one that I tend to use for the assessment cycle, I do like using the NVQ frameworks for assessments, because I think the NVQ framework, when we think about the Assessors Award, the what's now Carver, if you're been around a while, it used to be called the D32-33. It then was called the A1. It then became the Certificate in Assessing Vocational Related Achievement. So it's been around a long time, the Assessors Award. And what I'm trying to say is the assessment cycle is very easy for me to explain. It's plan, collect, judge, feedback. I'm going to plan the assessment cycle. I'm going to plan the assessment. I'm going to collect the evidence, whatever that is, whether it's observation, professional discussion, reflective account. Judge, is it competent or not yet competent? And feedback, what went well, what didn't go so well, what can we do better next time? Plan, collect, judge, feedback. So that assessment cycle is such a simple tool to remember. So your teaching cycle is plan, deliver, assess, and evaluate. Plan, deliver, assess, and evaluate. And your assessment cycle is plan, collect, judge, feedback, in a nutshell. Legal frameworks around higher education in England, or just frameworks around education, right? You've got the Equality Act 2010. There is a Research Act that was all about ethics and codes of practice, and about from the Office of Students. data protection or GDPR, you've got your safeguarding, and then there's your prevention strategies. So again, you don't necessarily need to remember all of them, but you do need to, if questioned in your EPA, understand some of those legal frameworks. Working examples of all of those is there. I'm not going to go through those. You can have a read of those in your own time. So ethics then. Ethics are in everything we do. There are several core principles of ethics. We'll run through some of those now, but then there's the theories behind ethics. So we've got the core principles of ethics, and then we've got the theories of ethics. So ethics looks at integrity, respect of human decency, benevolence, meaning promoting the well-being, trying not to hurt others, justice, responsibility, and professionalism. So upholding things, acting in the best interest. And then theories, we look at things like the virtuous theories, so just being open and honest and trying to be of good character and working well. So if we look at how they apply to what we do in academia, ethical principles such as honesty and transparency looks at about, are you working in a fair and honest manner? Respect of human dignity, you're meeting individuals' needs, you're not discriminating, you're treating people with respect, regardless of protected characteristics. Justice looks at promoting fair and an inclusive learning environment. And then obviously responsibility looks at promoting a culture of professionalism, so setting that standard. Oh, don't know why that didn't move on. Right, lovely. So let's just have a look at this now. So did that feedback report finish? Good. So just going back to that feedback report there. So look, feedback report, subject, prepared by, summary, who it was, what you did, findings, strengths, areas for improvement, recommendation. I mean, this is quite a long report. Short-term goals, long-term goals, and conclusions, again, signatures. So creating your paperwork need not take that long. You could just go online and find stuff. Just make sure it's fit for purpose. Good. Now, did make that reading book. I put it there. So, not so sure why I did that. Okay, now we've gone through the overview. Hopefully that's given you a rough idea about kind of your roles and responsibilities as being a learning and skills mentor. It is a short, quick introduction to it. You have got your books that you can have a look at, so have a look at those and have a read. And what I would say is go back to your policies and procedures, just have a look at kind of your own frameworks, what it is that's going on. And then next week, we're going to start to go in a bit deeper on each of those standards. And we'll start to gather some more evidence there to move things along. So you'll be pleased to know there's no real homework this week. It's just a case of reading, making sure you're up to target, and I will see you all next week. So take care, everyone. Bye for now.